Yeah. We're going to start out with a little video. Great to be here, and look forward to meeting some more of you. We're going to show you a little bit about what, we're going to have all this data that's unlocked from food. Food is an incredible source of data, but all of it ultimately ends up in the kitchen. So we're going to show you a little bit about what this is going to look like, and hopefully spur some discussion about the ways that all of that data comes together ultimately to help people be more successful with food.
What Innit does is we connect food to the appliances. So we unlock that food information, and we help your veggies talk to your fridge and help you remember when to have them by. Or we have the chicken talk to the oven and help use the right cooking programs and the right cooking features within that device to get the best flavor out and make it really simple.
So we have a lot of fun in our office. I'm co-founding the company with the former CEO of Nestle and Unilever, Eugenio Minviel, in multiple parts of the world. I'm from tech. I spent the last 20 years in Silicon Valley building tech companies. So it's kind of a food meets tech. And we were at the White House briefing. Sam Cass, who is the White House chef and chief policy advisor, and he said that if we can help people be more successful in the kitchen, we can have so much impact on health, so much impact on how people live. And he said, I want to join the team. So now he's part of the team. So we're pulling together a pretty diverse set of skills, whether it's nutritionists, celebrity chefs, scientists, computer scientists, and it looks a little bit like this room. Sort of coming together to figure out how do we piece this together, because food is a multifaceted problem set. And that's a little bit of kind of our starting point, and let me kind of share a little bit here with you of what we think it means. So our mission, I think like many of the people here, is how do we empower people through food, and specifically us being the plumbers of how the information is going to flow. How do we align that in ways that can really unlock that value? And so as you've seen, the kitchen's about to go through a very rapid transformation. We're actually demonstrating this technology live in New York City. We're planning to launch next year. So what we're going to have is the kitchen is going to go from something that was very closed, just a bunch of dumb boxes. Now Wi-Fi is going into everything because it costs like $10. And so now you're going to be lighting up a whole data center in the kitchen. You're going to have cameras being put into everything because they cost $15. And so now you're going to have all of these new sources of information, and the more that those can be aligned with real actionable data that turns into intelligence, then that's something that we can really start to solve some of the complex problems that people struggle with. And we're really trying to do it by giving food a voice, making food the center of that flow, and taking the information from that entire supply chain, many of whom you are working on, and really making that available in a form that's very usable. So I mentioned our team, so we brought together folks from across different industries to try and tackle this. We had to build a very unique company, so we've raised some pretty significant capital, about $43 million, and we've really started to pull in some of the big players that are interested in how this transformation is going to help the consumer, but ultimately also help their businesses. So it goes something like this. First, you have to listen to food, and you have to use science and data sources from many different places to unlock the information inside every piece of food. And we think every piece of food has so much to say. My co-founder ran 100 factories, so every Nespresso bean that was processed at Nestle, they knew its chemical composition, its provenance, they knew everything. Every carrot in a P.F. Chang's frozen dinner was cooked to T minus 3 minutes, as was every other ingredient. So when it hit your pan 3 minutes later, all of them arrived at the same time. So there's so much science, so much data, so much effort that goes into the processed food. But food lands in the kitchen, and people are really flying blind. So how do we listen to the information inside the food, but then connect it, make it actionable intelligence? How do we have your fridge know what's inside it and start to help you manage it? Maybe we can tell you, hey, that doesn't go on the top shelf. Maybe move that to the bottom shelf and it'll last longer. Hey, what's starting to go bad? That yogurt that you haven't finished yet, maybe we could use that in a tandoori sauce with that chicken that you were going to cook. So these are all little bits, just like GPS. Remember driving with paper maps? We used to get lost a lot. And now you get the turn by turn, you know where the traffic is. And that's what people love in each of their, every part of their lives. Music is getting digitized, movies are getting digitized, taxi cabs, you push a button, your car's about to drive itself. But with food, it's still very analog. And this is because, there's this, sort of Tower of Babel, in some cases where just, the information hasn't been available to really help people attack that. So there's the connect piece, and then ultimately it's about empowering them. And this is a double entendre for us because our business model is Innit empowered. It's kind of like Intel inside. We don't want to make appliances, bend sheet metal. We don't want to make food products. We don't want to sell them to you in a retail. But if we can bring the information layer, think of it almost as a food operating system that helps connect that information, we think we can optimize it in multiple different ways. So in terms of science, we spent 3 years in stealth mode, developing some pretty distinct and unique technologies. One of them, as you saw, is we're using machine learning, computer vision, to be able to take the friction out of identifying food, and that this will even go into the next layers of how do you sort of see how the food is evolving. Think of a banana. Banana kind of tells you where it is in the evolution process. It's green, and then it's yellow, with and then it's you got brown spots. And so, this is true of multiple foods. So you're going to have multiple sensors coming together to start to predict where a piece of food is in that cycle. Every piece of food changes. And so how do you unlock that information and start to make that really seamless so the kitchen knows what it's got? You know what you've got. Secondly, it's, okay, now that I know what I have, what do I do with that? So turning information into actionable intelligence is a real gap, especially for consumers. And so this is where we've innovated something that we're calling machine-readable recipes. So we break down, in a paper recipe, it's analog. We now use, our taxonomies of food, and we're using things like Langwall and other types of standards-based, ontologies to really, help us with this. And we definitely are interested in collaborating on how we can make this better and better. So how do we map what you've got in your fridge to what you can make? What's for dinner is a big question. And then once we have that, how do you map the cooking instructions? May be simple, preheat, then bake at 350, but it could be much more complex. How do we make that machine readable so it can actually program your kitchen and orchestrate and make that easier, just like GPS helps you get somewhere? Like I got up here and it took some weird back roads, but I got here faster and it was awesome. Right? How do we do that in the kitchen? And finally, new techniques for cooking. So actually, we'll send a 15-step Michelin star recipe to your smart oven. Today, it's got Wi-Fi added for basically remote control. So all you can do today is kind of preheat from the couch. But we can reach in through those knobs and program it once we know what your food is, because every chicken is different and every oven is different. So every recipe in the world is wrong. That's why sometimes you get chicken sushi, sometimes you get shoe leather, and it's a big challenge for people being successful in the kitchen and getting dinner ready. And so if we can use data and dial that in, then we can really cook in very different ways and be much more sophisticated about it. So this is all about not starting with tech for tech's sake. I'm a tech guy, and I love tech, but this is about solving real problems. So these are we've interviewed thousands of consumers, and they're telling us what stresses them out. Things like what's for dinner, what food do I have, is it still good to eat? How do I prepare it? I didn't grow up with mom and grandma every day cooking, but I watch Food Network and I'm a super foodie. How do I close that gap? And then finally, if I put that $30 piece of salmon in the oven, how do I not murder it like the last 3 times, right? How do we take much more of the risk out and get people better results? So ultimately, you're going to have a kitchen that is much more connected, and the information that flows through the whole supply chain is now going to end here and either inform people or actually be able to help program how do we choose what's for dinner. It's a Tuesday night at 6:45 p.m. How do we choose something that's easy to make? But we might also be taking into account what else did you eat. We might be able to take into account your health factors or who's eating. Is it mom and dad or are the kids eating too? There's a lot of variables and complexity here that the better the data is flowing into that, the better the decisions that the consumer can make, and we can make that very easy for them and really seamless. And if it's not seamless and if it doesn't taste great, forget it. Because if you want to bet on anything in life, bet on consumer laziness. Right? The consumers will not barcode scan everything in and out of their fridge. They just won't do it. But if you can make it easy and really have that information flowing in a very elegant, seamless way, we can really help people change what they want to change and really sort of create some joyful outcomes. So that's us. Thank you.